Hello, welcome back to another edition of the Return the Picks podcast, where once again we're not gambling on any games in the NFL. There's nothing really to look at in terms of action, aside from everything that's going on off the field with free agency. The doors have opened and teams are certainly stockpiling for next year already. Take a look at the action that the Texans and the Patriots have already done. Myself, Ollie Wilson, Dave Bluck and Jazz Gillum dived into all of the big moves that have been going on in the last 2 weeks, including some of the franchise tags and some of the first players to be picked off the free agency wire. So sit back and enjoy another episode of the Return the Picks podcast.
Over the middle, picked off! Sees it, fired, intercepted! Blitz coming. Pass is picked off!
He's going to go looking again, and it's picked off by Stephon Gilmore down on the right sideline.
Into the end zone, and he's picked off. Back the other way.
What, Mitch Trubisky going to the Bills? I think that's super smart, to be honest. I do. I think that's very smart. That's just broken. Well, you've got Mitch Trubisky is a mobile quarterback, but he's not a very good quarterback. So he's definitely a downgrade on Josh Allen, but he can do the things that Josh Allen likes to do, just less effectively, which is basically what you want from a backup quarterback.
Yeah,
so I actually think it's actually a really smart move from the Bills. If Allen goes out,
I don't know about really smart.
It's a great piece. It's a great piece of depth. You've just replaced your backup quarterback with a backup that, in theory, might be able to push Allen a little bit more because he will still have this. No, but he's going to have this insane drive of I can be a starting quarterback still, which everybody else apart from Mitch knows he can't. But you've also now got a guy that's got a similar skill set, just at a slightly lower level. So he will just sit there and be a backup.
Markedly reduced level.
I definitely don't think it's a bad move, for sure.
Yeah, I think.
No, I mean, where else is Mitch Trubisky going to go?
There wasn't
I doubt he had a massive kind of ton of options to pick from either. So, and he's going to a good team. I just think that for the team point of view, I don't really think he adds a thing.
It's a useful hire to be. It's not going to make a huge impact down the road unless Allen gets, he's out for 4 weeks or something. But yeah, it's fine. And you add that into Emmanuel Sanders joining up as well.
That's a good signing.
Now you've got
I don't know about that one.
Diggs to stretch, Beasley underneath, and Emmanuel Sanders for the middle routes is a really safe pair of hands. The Bills have done very well in the last couple of days.
I'm surprised they got rid of. Surprised they got rid of John Brown, but
he didn't do that much though last year. I mean, I found him
underwhelming. He was injured, bro.
But even when he played, though, in terms of his impact, he rarely got targeted. I didn't notice him getting. It wasn't like what we were expecting, which was Diggs takes the double teams, and Brown gets way open up. It was Beasley underneath that was the big second hit, basically. And Brown didn't really, when he did play, have that much of an impact at all. So
he's gone to the Raiders, so he'll get opportunities there, won't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially with Aggie gone. So, what are you trying to? What's the indefensible thing that we need to defend, Jazz? What's?
Well, do you think Dak Prescott signing for the Cowboys and the deal that he signed was a good idea for the team? I mean, because Dak got what he wanted, so this is a deal now that if we look back at how we spoke about before, we were of the opinion that they wouldn't pay what he wanted to get paid, and they've completely caved in and paid him whatever he wanted.
Yeah, but I think at the quarterback position is one of the few positions where you're still going to see that. And Jerry Jones obviously wants Dak to be his guy. I mean, statistically, Dak Prescott over the last 2 years has been a very high caliber quarterback for various reasons that you can say.
I think he's a franchise quarterback. It's the injury that's the big concern. To have an injury like that, and to pay that contract in the off season after that injury is something that should never have happened. That's why you do sign these guys earlier to these big contracts, because you don't know what Dak's going to be coming back. They might have every confidence that he's going to come back as the same guy, but he might not. And then you fucked it.
I just think from a team point of view, they've got so many horrifically glaring holes across the entire team that committing as much money as they are now doing to Dak, who, granted, he's had some very good statistics, but what has the team done? Nothing. And
what you can do with this is, as we've seen with a number of teams around the league, of kind of moved things around and shuffled money from one year to a different year on players' contracts to kind of reopen up opportunities to have money available for signing players. There's no reason why Dallas won't try and do that in some way with Dak's contract next year or the year after and just rejig it slightly so that they can start filling those holes. But what they have done, at least, is they have signed the franchise quarterback that they want, they know, and they really like, and who seems to be really liked as well in Dallas by fans, by players, by everybody in the organization. And if the franchise quarterback is your most valuable asset in an NFL team, then that's worth it, isn't it? Isn't that worth it to spend that amount of money, to know that you can maybe move stuff around and to continue to build around Dak Prescott, the offense that you want?
I think it's the other thing I'd add as well is that as fans and sports commentators and journalists and stuff out there, it's kind of like, what do we want? Because we kill these teams for giving up money too early to these guys, and like Jared Goff and maybe Carson Wentz. Yeah, did they get the money too early? Okay, fine. But the Cowboys waited and waited, and now it's like, well, okay, do we kill them for waiting too long? It's like, it's a very hard thing to get the timing right. The Cowboys have kind of got, potentially, they've got really unlucky with where that injury has come, because that could obviously make this deal a disaster if he's not the same guy when he comes back. But they must be basing it on the fact that he looks, already like he's going to make a full recovery, and he's young enough where it shouldn't be an issue.
They'll know that Dak is going to be okay or not, surely. I mean, they will have a very good idea. The mental game is completely different when it comes to big injuries and how players come back from it.
That's the X factor.
That's the one that's tough.
Yeah, I'm not saying that physically, they'll have some of the best paid doctors in the world looking at him. But in terms of how players react when they come back, are they a bit gun shy? Can they move the same way they did before? The way that he was, I think particularly because of his where he was picked in the draft and stuff, he played with a very nothing to lose attitude, as you'd expect from a guy like that. And now he probably feels like he's going to have everything to lose when he does come back and play, and it's going to be interesting to see how that affects him. But he's got the arm talent and stuff that I didn't think he had initially, but over the last 2 years he's proven, I think, and you can rebuff this, Jazz, if you want, but I think he's got the arm talent where he doesn't need to be a super mobile quarterback. He can be a pocket guy.
He's never had to be anyway. He does approach the game as a lower level Russell Wilson in the way he does. He uses his legs only for extending the plays if they need to be, but he is a pocket first passer generally. So in terms of the things that you like from a quarterback, he's a quarterback that can throw. He's a quarterback that has escapability if you need to use it at the last minute, or you can design around every so often. But Dallas don't lean into that so much that it actually ends up crippling their offense. So it just seems like it's, however much money it is, and it's a lot of money, it's probably the right move as the franchise looking at it, realistically. Jazz, looking at it as a fan.
I'm just not a big fan about it. I'll tell you why. Nothing to do with his injury at all. If you look at, granted, in 2019 he had a good season, he looked pretty good. Last year, I don't think he looked good at all. And the reason why he looked good on the stats after the first 5 games as he got injured was because his team gave up horrifically large leads. In those first 5 games, they went 3-2. But
then they had that big comeback against the Falcons.
That was in that first 4 weeks. Okay. So they should have been 0-4 to start the year off. And the game against the Giants, Dak goes down and Andy Dalton leads them to win the game. So Dak really should have been 0-5 as a starter last year. So it's not as if he was setting the world alight. And when he was throwing for all those touchdowns, he'd had to come back from, let me just find the deficits, from 29-10 against the Falcons. Against the Browns, it was 41-14. And the Giants, they were down 17-3. I just think that paying him as much as he expected to be paid was a bit too hefty, to be quite honest. And going back to the team point of view, their top 4 players that contribute to their cap are DeMarcus Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, and Ezekiel Elliott. DeMarcus Lawrence has looked not very good at all since he signed his 5-year, $100 million contract, whatever it is.
Big time.
Amari Cooper is completely inconsistent. You can get some weeks, like we've all had in fantasy, where he'll get
Yeah.
10 catches, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's the ultimate, like, you get lured in player and then burnt. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what he's like every week and just playing the game anyway. And then you have Zeke Elliott, who obviously campaigned for his big contract and has played appallingly compared to what the amount he's been paid for.
He looks cooked, doesn't he?
Unfortunately, he really does.
He's got a big year coming up, or he is in trouble.
Oh, he's out.
Yeah.
Well, this is why I don't buy into your Dak wasn't setting the world alight thing, because that offense was struggling a bit, but that offense was so focused on the pass because that run game didn't look great in those first 5 games of the year, and Dak was having to do it. You look at 5 games, Dak has 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 1,800 yards. Like that pace is going on for a huge year for any quarterback. And he was more.
But it doesn't matter if those come after you, like by Jazz, 2 scores down.
Jazz, he was more accurate than any other year he has been. So last year, but Jazz, the point is, this last year he was playing better.
Counts more than when you're 14 fucking nil down.
Last year,
but that's because he had a bad defense as well.
Yeah.
So you
it's
can't
also because
lay that
they
on
weren't
him.
moving the chains for the first couple of halves. That's the other trouble too.
Jazz, last year he was playing better than statistically than we've seen Dak play, and there wasn't really. When you look at the eye test, you weren't saying it's Dak's fault that the offense wasn't moving.
Well, it was to begin with. If it was moving the entire 4 quarters, fair enough. If they'd lost by a couple of scores or down a couple of scores, but they kept trying to keep pace with the score, but they had got field goals rather than touchdowns, fair enough. But if they're not moving the ball at all in the first couple of quarters in almost every single game, and had to rally to come from behind, which just gives inflated stats, that's all it is. It doesn't mean that he can do it when it counts. Do it when it's 0-0 and make it 7-0 to you. Don't wait until it's 21-0.
Yeah.
Or when it's the Browns 41-14 to come to life.
I would say as well, though, is that, I mean, teams are different, right? Some teams start fast, some teams start slow. You shouldn't have to, just because you start slow doesn't mean you should be 2 scores down in the first quarter. So, like, I do think a certain amount about it does come down to coaching as well. And that's another thing I'd say to let Dak off the hook further, is that the coaching was really bad. And then when he went out, the coaching really seemed to descend into a tailspin. And I'm shocked that it seems like the coaching staff is kind of staying put for year 2 of this project.
I mean, it's a mess. It's all a mess.
So I don't know how well Dak's going to do with this coaching staff around him anyway. I mean, I think that this is a kind of papering over. One thing I think you're right about is it's papering over huge problems, not just on the field, but off the field with this coaching staff. And I don't know.
And ownership and GM, the whole thing.
I can't imagine that they're going to be a super competitive team for the next couple of years. It would surprise me.
And going back to the idea on coaching, again, if you're up, you're the Browns defensive coordinator, you've got a 27-point lead. Are you going to be blitzing to try and stop them from making any first downs? Probably not. You're going to go into prevent defense. Come on, guys. Just don't get beaten over the top. We'll just we'll hold them back. And they throw the ball down the field and they get extra yards and just garbage stuff because the other team isn't playing as hard because they've got a 27-point lead.
I think
that's where yards come from.
They have just locked down the most consistent positive element of their franchise.
Yeah.
That's what Dallas need to do.
I completely agree. You've summed it up there.
I think they've overpaid.
What's interesting is that you say they won't compete.
The thing is though, Jazz, is that every quarterback gets overpaid though, really. In terms of like relative, but when you start seeing that trend where it's like, okay, those huge contract after huge contract after huge contract, and they're all beating the last one, it's like, well, are they getting overpaid, or are they? Is it just recognizing that it's super competitive to keep these guys, to get these guys, and it's the most important position by far? That's why it makes up like a quarter of the salary cap or whatever it ends up.
Yeah, I know. I saw a stat on this one, I thought it was on Rich Eisen's podcast, that if you look at the last 10 Super Bowl wins, 4 of the wins have been on people's rookie deals. The other 5 have been... Are there 5? Other 4 have been Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. And of course they were into the other deals. But that means that 4 of those teams had a lot more cap room to try and make a team work around the quarterback they had, as opposed to having to pay someone a huge amount of money. And you look at the Chiefs at this exact point now, having let go of their 2 tackles, and granted they signed Joe Tooney to try and replace at least some of the interior protection. So that's a really good signing, but they haven't got any tackles. So you can maybe stop internal pressure, but what are you going to do on the edges? And we saw in the last game they played, the Super Bowl, they couldn't cope with any pressure from anywhere. So the amount of money they put in towards Patrick Mahomes' contract, which they're going to have done, and of all the players in the league, he's probably one that's worthy at the minute to be the highest paid player in the league. But they've got no one to protect him because they've given him so much money. And granted, the cap came down as well. It's an unprecedented time for that. But
yeah, I mean, it
that
seems,
just goes to show the
but
team.
it seems like your argument is with the kind of the way, the culture of the league, the way the GMs operate, that they're all wrong and that they should consider just having rookie deals and then franchise tagging for the next 2 years after that. And maybe that will happen, but I think that there are good reasons why they do want to lock down these guys for as long as they can, because it gives them a chance to win every year. If you've got Russell Wilson on your team, we were talking about it last time, the Seahawks wouldn't have even made the playoffs in the last 5 years if it wasn't for him.
Mm-hmm.
So, you give yourself a chance. When you get in the playoffs, we know crazy shit happens. That's why the Saints haven't made a Super Bowl, even though they've been playing incredibly in the regular season and postseason for the last 5 years. Weird stuff happens. You can I know you can point out those Super Bowl wins and stuff, but I don't know. Just because that's happened in the past doesn't mean that that's kind of predicting the future.
No, I mean, as well as that, I'm not trying to put it down to the league. I also am not a big fan of the Cowboys as an organisation, coming down from the head coaching to the ownership to the general manager.
I don't think any of us are.
So I mean, it's not
got
just
Ollie on the line here. Remember?
This isn't a shot at Dak Prescott. If anything, it's more of a shot at the Cowboys having such a terrible team that they have to overpay someone overpay Dak Prescott at this point to keep him on board. Otherwise, the team would have been even worse than it is right now.
I guess
it's only overpaying to me if you're buying the idea that, which is a school of thought that's been discussed in the last 12 to 18 months, which is, as you said, Jazz, QBs are going to become more and more like running backs, as in they become more dispensable after that rookie deal, because the price you have to pay to keep a good QB around after that rookie deal is just getting too much. It's too extortionate. But we're not at that point yet. And so for that reason, I think Dallas has done something actually quite smart, because they've given themselves now a big player, which as long as he stays fit and healthy and doing what he does and has done and looked like he was going to do last year, they can build a winning team around and a winning offense around Dak Prescott. And that's what you need to do as a franchise. I mean, if Dak's in that team last year, Dallas probably walks that division quite comfortably.
I don't agree with that at all. Otherwise, they would have won some more of those games, those first 5 games he was there.
But we knew and we saw as well, though, Dallas were getting better and better as the season went on. Dallas had some kind of really odd games where they tested the Steelers, for instance, in that peculiar meeting.
Well, according to Ollie, the Steelers weren't very good, so that means nothing.
Well, I mean, I still stand by that.
That's fine, but that just goes to show again that the Cowboys are terrible. But carry on.
But I'm saying, those games where Dallas you saw them get better, particularly on defense throughout the year, they did improve and get better compared to those opening 5 weeks. There were improvements. So if you then put a much better quarterback in that team like Dak Prescott, and we've spoken about the idea of skill position players on offense, when their starting quarterback isn't in, everybody feels like the starting quarterback isn't in. It's a really different huddle. Players have mentioned that before. Michael Irvin said it before about when Aikman was out, and you're always looking over to the sideline like, well, maybe he'll come back in this play. Okay. And obviously it's slightly different with an injury like Dak's, but when your starting quarterback is out, it is very different. It's a brand new operator at the helm of an offense. So I do think that Dallas would have had a far better year and probably won that division quite comfortably with Dak in.
That's fine.
I mean, that's not saying a huge amount, though, is it?
No, but this is my thing about
wrong, Ollie. It's
you
fine.
get 9 wins in the
to have Dak
in the East.
To have Dak now nailed down, they've just become hyper competitive in the worst division in football. But they're still competitive and going to be looking to get into a playoff spot every single year. And as you say, when you get into the playoffs, that's all that matters. And that keeps the people of Dallas happy and the fans happy, the franchise happy. And if you're consistently able to compete to get into the playoffs in that division, it might turn people's heads of going to Dallas. You've got an easy route into a playoff position, and then anything can happen. I mean, it just builds confidence in a franchise as well.
You just lose.
All right, then. Well, that's some good Dak news. Shall I throw out some free agents and see what you guys think about it?
Yeah, go on, hit me with one.
Bud Dupree, Jazz. Tell me about Bud Dupree. Do you think the Titans did well getting him?
I think they overpaid a bit for him as well, but I think everyone's going to overpay for pass rushes at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, he was very good in the first 11 games, as with most of the rest of the defense. Then it all sort of fell apart afterwards. They needed to get more pass rush, the Titans, because of course they signed Vic Beasley last year, and then famously I don't think he ever played for him.
And Clowney.
They should know. Oh yeah, Clowney again. Clowney is a free agent again this year as well. Hasn't been signed. I'm sure that will take a few months or so before he gets signed on that too. So it's a good move for the Titans. Again, they're always going to pay more in the open market for him. I hope he's back to full fitness. The question will be, when he's on his own and hasn't got TJ Watt opposite of him, will he be able to generate as much pressure? Because his best years have come when TJ's next to him, as opposed to
with Hayward and the there's a beastly front
it's not
seven.
It's not as if it's a bad defensive line and linebacking core. So it's whether or not he can live up to it. It's a whole different question. But I hope he does. I hope he does well.
You wish him well.
I wish him well, and it would be lovely to have
nice.
kept him. But I knew that we're never going to have the money to pay him. So one of those things.
I like that. What else have we got? Hunter Henry. Let's talk some Pats.
If he can stay healthy, he's a great tight end. He's a really good tight end
every single
when he's
year.
healthy.
He's another fantasy one where you get sucked in. It's been three years in a row now where
I've had him twice
the buzz
as well.
gets, and it's going to go nuts this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much more buzzy.
I don't think it'll be as much buzzy this year because you've got Jonnu Smith there as well.
That's true. Yeah, I guess it depends. I don't know how they're going to kind of make. I don't know. I don't even know if Cam's going to be the starter. It's so hard to predict how these guys are going to do because I don't know. Surely they're going to do something else between now. They can't just be rolling in with just Cam again. He was really bad and limited. So just because you put some good pass catchers around him and some tight ends who can kind of open up the short routes a bit better for him doesn't mean he's suddenly going to turn into this 30 touchdown.
But he'll have someone to throw to, though, that might be able to get open. If they can do that,
I know, but
that's
your
a
ceiling
a step past what was last year's offense, though.
Yeah, but that was the worst, so much worse than people thought the Patriots would be, I think.
Yeah.
It's just a really boring team to watch as well. There was nothing.
So
obviously, Cam didn't have anything to work with last year, but even the play calling, there was nothing inspiring. It got really tiresome of the red zone just being either Cam runs or it's a running back. Or Cam looks to pass and then just runs. It was nothing Belichickian about it. There was no kind of guaranteed nailed on sort of plays where you just thought, Pats will be in. 20 inside the 20, 25, Pats will be getting a touchdown here. Doesn't have that at all. What, at least as you say, Jazz, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are two great pairs of hands from the tight end position for Cam to hit on short routes. And he's got obviously that absolute stud from Las Vegas, Nelson Aguilar, to hit on the deep routes as well. Now.
Yeah, I wanted to hear what you thought of.
Hey, all I'm saying,
Agger's going there.
Those balls get real cold in New England in winter. Combined with some stone hands, those are going to be some droppy catches going on up there.
Hey, that's true. Maybe it was the climate. That would be a good deep dive to do, stats wise.
The softness of the leather.
Yeah. Oh, need to have a look at that.
Yeah, it's
Back
interesting.
To the Smith and Henry thing, it seems a bit like they're trying to recreate kind of a Gronk and Hernandez style offense.
Sure.
Where you had two very good run blockers on, but also two very good targets that could just be kind of flared out or put into wide out. So you have to make the defense decide, are they going to put different personnel in, they're going to play base against it, how they're going to try and defend it, and what they're going to do out of it makes it much more appealing for someone like Josh McDaniels to get creative with, I think.
Yeah. And I do, as a fan, I have a real soft spot for tight ends. There's nothing quite like seeing a huge guy catching the ball and then going into the secondary and having safeties and corners just hanging off him.
Just draping off him.
Yeah, it's one of the most enjoyable things in football, I think. Just a low key, nice kind of moment.
Yeah, I don't mind
watch
that.
football.
That's why I like Kyle Juszczyk getting paid as well. Becoming the highest paid fullback ever, because Kyle Juszczyk is basically just a tight end that decides to come out from behind the quarterback rather than in front of him, and he's a really fun player to watch keeping that fullback position alive still just about in the NFL, Kyle Juszczyk. So him getting paid by the Niners was pretty nice.
That's cool. What else we got?
What about AJ Green to the Arizona Cardinals, and Larry Fitzgerald now is on the free agency market for the first time in like 17 years or something. Yeah, I would think AJ Green, Larry Fitzgerald, and Hopkins is like there's something interesting about having all three.
3 years ago, that might have been
that would have been fire.
Or maybe, I don't know. I don't know if you
Five
can combine
maybe 5
a year,
years
actually.
ago. Yeah. 5 years ago.
But then is Hopkins
what he was? Yeah,
relevant?
Yeah,
then?
Hopkins has been great every single year he's been in the league.
He's just been in
He's
Texas.
had seasons with terrible QBs thrown to him, and he still puts up massive numbers.
Like, this is the exciting AJ Green gets out of Cincinnati move that everybody has probably wanted for like a long time.
It's too late.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It feels like he's jumping on, you know how everybody jumped on the Brady bandwagon? Like, AJ Green was like, no. He's like, no, I'm going to jump on the Watt bandwagon. It's going to be the Watt one this year. It's definitely Watt. It's definitely in Arizona. It's not going to be. It's not going to be.
He's having a worse passer now. So he's downgraded at quarterback for me. I know you agree with me on that one, Ollie.
Yeah,
I'm not the biggest fan, and you're a big Burrows fan. So like, yeah, he's downgrading at quarterback. I don't know. Sometimes you can get surprised by these things.
Has AJ Green got really good pass? Has AJ Green got really good run blocking? Because that's what he's going to do. He's just going to have his back turned to Kyler Murray, just run blocking downfield with that corner. That's why he's been brought in. You're really wise. You got great hands for blocking. There's big hands for a receiver there. You could really hold a guy's shirt a lot with that. I'm just saying, AJ.
Talking about receivers, why have the Eagles not signed up Will Fuller yet? Talented, injury prone. Sign him up, Ollie. That is the most Eagles move ever.
Hamstrings of glass, that man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Come
we are making...
Let's fly. Let's go. Let's get 4 games for the Eagles.
We are making no moves whatsoever at this point.
Have you got no money? Is it like a similar?
We don't have money. Well,
situation?
we're still paying Wentz like $32 million this year.
That'll do it.
So there's still a hefty
you
chunk.
thought the Colts to the contract?
No, we are still.
You've got dead money in the cap.
We are losing like 30 million or so still off Wentz this year. So it's
the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, cheers, Carson. But so we haven't got any money. We've just signed Brandon Graham to a 1-year deal, which is kind of nice to keep him at least because he's such a great character to have there. But I don't think there's going to be any love for people like Zach Ertz at this point. You know.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
Send the Colts.
We don't need to get into the Eagles. Don't worry. Let's keep it moving.
But I wouldn't mind talking about Washington. Because Washington signed Lamar Miller, they've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they picked up Curtis Samuel yesterday, I think, from the Panthers.
I'm so glad Fitz isn't retiring. I legit felt bummed, like when I heard these. I was like, it's not. The league's not going to be the same. Like, he's had a huge impact on the league the last.
He's a cult hero.
3-4 years.
Yeah.
You know,
he's a cult hero.
This is 8th team in the NFL.
9th team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Speaking of Curtis Samuel, he was the college roommate of Terry McLaurin.
Oh, really? Didn't know that one. Oh, yeah, there was something about how they used to talk about it.
Sorry,
Curtis Samuel's gone to Washington.
To Washington.
Oh, right. Oh, I missed that one. Oh, that's quite a big loss to the Panthers. I thought they'd try and keep it.
And Lamar Miller will do nothing because he's useless.
Yeah, I mean, he might not even make the team, to be fair.
That's also a very fair point.
He was out of the league last year. So.
Yeah. Speaking of probably out of the league, Damian Williams, man who opts out after winning a Super Bowl. It's like, I won't lose my job. No, they need me too much. See ya.
Yeah, it's really sad though.
It is, but
I don't know if I can blame a player for
opting out. Yeah, this year.
Out. It's a bit. That's a bit of a mean take, Jazz.
Well, it cost him his job.
Yeah, but it's not like
it's
not
necessarily you shitting on him as well. Does it?
It cost him his job.
Okay.
If you go in and decently expose yourself to someone, it costs you your job. I don't say, I can understand why you did it.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
That was a good use of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sad because the years to be allowed a free opt-out, like you get last year's NFL season, nobody knew exactly how it was going to go down. You know, we don't know what's going on with Damian Williams behind the scenes with his family or anything and his reasons for opting out. There were loads of players that opted out last year. It has lost him his job. I hope he does get picked up somewhere. I'd love him as
I don't know where he will get picked up though.
As a tandem with Boobie.
Because
that'd be nice.
They're just picking rookie running backs. And
nobody wants to pay. Nobody wants to pay. Yeah.
No, I mean, even look at Christian McCaffrey last year. Another good reason why it's difficult to pay someone who gets 300 touches a season because they're not going to last very long. Which is a shame because they deserve more money. But
what about Jalen Mills?
Went to Pats too.
Oh, I do not care about that.
Are they going to do it?
He is like the most irritating thing about the Eagles secondary because there continues to be talk about how he's good, and I've never seen him look like he's an incredible pass coverage or. Yeah. This whole green goblin, I've got green hair bollocks. It doesn't matter to me at all. It's nothing. I looked at it and was like, well, the New England Patriots secondary is going to be worse. They have
to replace Patrick Chung, who just retired.
Yeah, but you've replaced like a really
training these guys up.
Going back to the Pats too, though.
That's a pretty funny response. I like that.
Matt Judon is a signing. What do we think of that?
That's similar to Bud Dupree, I'd say, in terms of like, can he do it without those other guys around him and the coaching of the Ravens?
Yeah,
the Ravens just seem to always put together a good defense, even when the rest of the team isn't very good. And he's been a big part of that, but he's just a part. Like, he's not like. He's
the
not
reason.
A superstar, is he?
Yeah,
exactly,
I wonder if he will be able to do it. I think that if the Ravens thought he was, I'm going to guess maybe 26, 27.
Yeah, he's not old, is he? He's in his prime, I think.
But I think that if the Ravens thought he was that good, they would pay him because they realised what sort of talent he'd have. So the fact that a very good talent evaluation organisation like the Ravens decides not to pay him kind of says a lot.
It does, actually, because I don't know what their cap figure is and stuff, but I can't imagine that they're paying like silly money to many of their players.
Yeah.
Who's their big players that they're paying? I can't imagine. They need to fucking sign some, to be honest. They need some wide receivers to spend some money on.
Unnecessary in Baltimore. Pointless position to sign in Baltimore. Wide receivers. They won't get thrown enough.
It's got a running back.
AJ Green should have gone there. Pass blocks the hell out of people.
He's 28. 28. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's good money for him to get it. I just wonder whether or not it's another one of those signings from a team whose scheme is set up to create good pass rushes, and then when they go to a different team, they don't have the same sort of impact the money that they are being paid would denote. A bit like Clowney, to be honest. But
don't you... The difference is that any of these players that go to New England, as Dave said, talking about Jalen Mills, like, they have an ability to rejuvenate some players or find different ways of getting them to be successful. So the fact that they went out and got a lot of guys makes me think that they had a lot of people on their list that they knew they wanted to go and get. And because they are quite good at analysing and seeing the players that fit what they want to do, it makes me fearful that they've gone out and just got kind of the pieces that they wanted to put together. I think
it smacks of desperation to me.
Do you think?
Yeah, because it just shows that their roster building over the last 10 years has been atrocious. And all this does is really completely confirm it, because they're having to go out and replace players they haven't managed to place in the draft over the last 5 years. And that's why they're, in my opinion, overpaying for some of them as well.
But their drafting is poor. They haven't drafted well for a long time. But you wouldn't necessarily say that about Belichick's ability to build winning teams.
No, but what you said there about the coaching staff having looked at the players they wanted and gone out and got them, that's what they would have done in the draft, and they wouldn't have drafted players.
But there is a big difference to looking at a player in the draft, because, as we know, the draft is a complete naff hole where good players can turn up and do nothing. If you're looking at a guy that's played 3 years in the NFL, you've got a lot of NFL tape to look and see what he can and can't do at this level, as opposed to looking at a kid in college and going, I know what he can do, I've scouted him, this is what he can potentially do in the NFL. I think for the Patriots, that's where their strength is in team building, and they've gone out and basically built a brand new team.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think they've been opportunistic and picked up Carl Van Noy on a cut price from what the Dolphins were paying for him, which I think is really smart as well. He knows New England, obviously, and will just slot straight back into the system. Yeah, I
thought that was brutal, by the way, on Van Noy. He was on the McAfee show. You would have heard, Jazz. Not that long ago, and then he literally got cut like the week after, and he had this long interview with Pat talking. He was a great guest as well, and he was talking about how excited he was and down there about tour and stuff, and then it was like, nah, you're gone.
Somebody was making the point, it may have been a highlight on that, but somebody was making the point of you feel, or maybe it was on the Around the NFL podcast with Matt Money Smith, who was saying, you bitch and moan about people like Deshaun Watson not seeing through their contracts and everything like that. Nobody necessarily bitches and moans, the general fans at Miami, who have given a guy a big contract and a long deal to move his life down to Miami, and then they just cut him short immediately. And I think what you said there is actually kind of the opposite of that. It's like, yeah, you do feel a bit sorry for this guy who's gone down to try and be part of this quite an entertaining up-and-coming franchise in Miami at the moment. They are definitely building something positive down there. And you move your life and everything, and it's new start. I've got the sun, the sea. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'll see you later. All right.
It's surprising after 1 year as well. I don't know.
Yeah, a little brutal.
I don't know why that happened. It might have been not a good personality fit or something. But
there's money. I think it all comes down to money.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, just going back to the Patriots, I think it all depends what happens at quarterback. It doesn't matter for me if they upgrade all the skill positions and stuff. If Cam's starting, I think that there's still a really quite a low ceiling on that team.
Although give Cam a whole off season to learn the playbook and figure it all out, and have more kind of training sessions.
It's not going to mean that his
not get
arm's
COVID.
suddenly
Yeah, but he looked
amazing.
really good before he got COVID. Those first few weeks,
Really good.
I would say it was doing really quite well compared to how he finished the season.
Yes, but that is generous, I would say. Was he a top half of the league quarterback even then? I'd say no.
I'd say questionable.
Okay.
I'd say I'd
so
rather
he's in
have
that
Dak.
16 to 20 range, is it?
But he probably finished the season, I'd say maybe between 14 and 18, that sort of part.
But he finished the season
more like a 30 or 31.
Yeah. Right
but
down
again,
there.
like we said, after he came back from COVID, he just didn't seem the same.
Well, that's the thing. Belichick, I mean, we've got to put some trust in him. If he's bringing him back, he's got a plan. I mean, I think...
Or he had no other option.
Well,
what
it's
other option
been
did he have?
one... I don't know.
There was no big free agents out there to be had. They'd have to trade for someone, which means either overpaying them or overpaying the other team to get hold of them.
Doesn't seem like...
And who wants to go there? Considering everyone's saying, well, the New England way is boring and terrible. Look how much more fun Tom's having and Gronk is having. Why we want to go to where they were?
No. You can't overplay. Who wants to go and play for the greatest coach ever? Give me a break.
But was he though?
But this is no. There is though the conversation of.
I hate it. That's so dumb.
There was the conversation of nobody goes to play
dumb.
with Belichick. Everybody goes to play with Tom in New England. That was one of the conversations after Tom left New England. That a lot of ex-players were like, "Yeah, you don't go to be part of the Patriot
but hang on.
way."
We've had 3 Patriots on this show. And they all aren't in the league anymore, but they are singing Belichick's praises and saying that he's very different behind the scenes, that he can be a players coach.
Bill Belichick
He's just,
puts a Super
hates the
Bowl
media.
trophy on that little thing behind me there. I'll say whatever I need to say to stay in his good books. Don't worry about that. We know where Shane fucking lies with this sort of thing. The surprising one was Marlon Favorite being like, Belichick's a great guy, man. That was surprising because he's dealt with a lot of coaches.
Good beatboxing.
So I'm going to listen to those guys and not you jabronis.
Fair
That's
enough.
what I'm saying.
Sneaky good.
Sounds like he made the wrong choice, but whatever.
Sneaky good free agency pickup that I really liked was John Ross going to the New York Giants.
Why?
Yeah.
Because John Ross is somebody that's
It's terrible.
struggled in Cincinnati, but has been a guy who has attributes.
Yeah, but that's
Speed,
all he has.
physicality.
He's a good reclamation
So
project.
I think there's a possibility that you've got a solid receiver at a really cut price there. And it's an opportunity for John Ross to get out of a situation that maybe wasn't working for him and try and rebuild once again. Because there have been fleeting moments, but of real quality from John Ross. I don't think he's a complete garbage player at all. I just think he was being called.
How many receptions has he had in 4 years?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm just going with the
I've
eye
got it in
test.
front of
and
me.
what
Have
I've
a guess. Have a guess.
watched.
Over under 70.
I'm going to say under because you're obviously
'Cause you're
leaning
doing
into
that
it.
too.
Yeah, it's under.
But
Over under 50.
But how many times does he get targeted?
Over under 50.
what's his other stats? What's his pass? What's his
And
catch,
Jazz, I'm admitting that he's
per
in a
reception?
situation that didn't work out for him that well, but he's a guy that's always been renowned of being a great worker, physical
51 is the answer, by the way.
assets, and fast and good hands. So
What about yards per
I just think it's a
catch?
good chance for him to restart.
10 yards in 2018. 18.1 in 2019.
Oh, massive.
Yeah, but that was off.
Killing it. He's killing it. It's our boy, Russ.
It was off 28. Which, in fairness, his catch percentage is just about under half. So under 50% catch ratio from his targets to receptions.
I think he was widely
underutilized.
seen as one of the best receivers in that draft.
Yeah, I mean, he's
remember.
just not that good though, is he?
We'll
Just because
see,
you got
Jazz.
4.22 speed doesn't mean you can catch the ball.
We'll see.
You know who else had
see,
really good
Jazzy.
speed and didn't really do much in their first team? Darius Hayward-Bay. Do you know what he went on to do? Nothing.
Jazz is really just taking names tonight.
Yeah, man. It's wild. And me and Ollie just like consistently on the same page. It's
Yeah.
quite nice. We're building an alliance. I mean, it'll soon end.
Crash and
I
burn
don't
very
know.
quickly, yeah.
Yeah, I
It
don't
might
know
just take
over
one
what.
player.
It'll just something will spark some.
What do you think of the
discord.
Trent Williams signing to the 49ers, by the way, the re-signing?
Smart.
I mean, it's just a no-brainer, really, isn't it?
yeah,
yeah.
super smart.
You got one of the best offensive linemen in the league in your room. You just keep him there.
Usually a good idea.
Players you feel sorry for? Alan Robinson being given a franchise tag in Chicago.
yeah,
I saw that. Fuck,
There
he
was-
did not want that.
there was
he did not want
An
that.
amazing line this week that was it listed the quarterbacks that Alan Robinson has had, and then underneath it just said Alan Robinson might be the best receiver in the NFL. We've just never had a chance to see it.
Yeah.
We'll
He
never
might be
know.
the best of all time, for all we know.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
I felt so sorry when you saw the franchise tag get slapped down.
What
on
other
it.
weird? What other weird ones?
Jamal Williams ending up at the Detroit Lions. I think that kind of sucks because you're still in a really cold area that's worse than Green Bay and a worse franchise, and now you're gonna be the running back for Jared Goff's offense. That's all things terrible for Jamal Williams, who's I thought was a really good asset to have in Green Bay, and obviously they've spent a lot of money on re-signing Aaron Jones, which is really smart for them because he's been a great asset for them. I think he's probably one of the more overlooked running backs in the NFL because he's playing behind Aaron Rodgers' passing offense. But I think Aaron Jones just gets on and does the business in that offense. But yeah, Jamal Williams stuck in Detroit now. I feel...
I just feel sorry for anyone going to Detroit, to be honest.
yeah.
What about Cam Sutton, Jazz? The Steelers.
We didn't pay him very much, actually, which is also good. But he's been pretty solid for us.
How much did he get?
I think it was maybe 2 years and 7 million or 8 million.
Decent.
Yeah,
He's a good player.
I was a bit sad to see Mike Hilton leave because he played really well in the back end of the year.
Although your secondary did look fucking.
Didn't play anybody good,
right
did
at
it?
the end
until-
there, the last.
I mean,
last few games.
it doesn't help when the first play of the game, your centre snaps over your quarterback's head for a defensive touchdown.
Even though it died, it's good.
What did I say?
Even though it's died, it's good.
Right. Yeah. So, to level any sort of criticism against the defense at that point is quite tricky. But it'd be nice.
What?
It would be nice to have kept Mike Hilton. But
Oh yeah. So what about the other 40 points?
did you watch the offense? Did you watch the offense play?
I watched the whole game, and none of it was good.
Oh no! But it was the defense is the better part of it.
All right.
What about the Juju Smith-Schuster stuff?
Sad to see him go, but I never thought he was going to re-sign anyway after he didn't have much of it. As we said last time, he looked really good with AB as a second receiver, but he hasn't really looked very good as a number one receiver.
Yeah, he's going to want too much money, isn't he?
That's the problem. And it's
but
a
I don't
bad
know.
year to ask for money.
I don't know what he's going to get though.
Yeah.
I mean,
The Jets will pay him, I reckon.
oof.
He just irritates me in a like douchey millennial way of, you know, why did he put on that?
TikTok dances.
Well, yeah, the TikTok stuff was irritating, but like the Instagram post where it was like, will Juju stay or not? And he
voted no.
voted that he won't be, and just stuff like that. And it's like,
That's kind of funny.
it's funny, but also if you are part
Very
of that
disrespectful.
Steelers organization, you're like,
it's
oh,
not helping him getting paid.
well, you,
like-
Unless, of course, secretly behind the
It's-
scenes,
it's
he's
pretty
about
dumb.
to get paid. They're just keeping a hold of it for a while.
I guess.
But the Steelers are a sort of organisation that would do that. They would
Yeah.
just say, "We've done it. Here you go, done."
the Jets are going to
He's
start
definitely
playing all their
not-
games through
Keep it moving.
Snapchat, so it'll be perfect. Juju can just do like 12-second plays on Snapchat, FaceTiming while he's doing stuff. It's just, it's irritating. It's just an unnecessary side piece to,
Yeah.
and he's not
A
good enough
distraction.
yet. He's not good enough to have that side piece.
No,
don't
he's just
think
come off
anyone's-
a really bad year, a really disappointing year, and he's like acting as if he's Odell Beckham coming from the Giants. Like, you're not that guy, dude. You can't. You're not in that position.
You must be quite happy, Dave, because the Panthers aren't really doing much at the moment. And there's obviously the
I'm
question
worried
marks.
they're going to get Deshaun Watson. Though,
Question marks
and then
about CMC.
My division is going to be ruined.
Well, the Bucks are obviously looking like they're going to try and run it back. They've obviously tried to re-sign everywhere they need to re-sign all the important figures. But it's the Saints that now they don't have Breeze, and they've just re-signed Jameis Winston, and the talk is who should be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints on week 1, Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. And that's got to be one of the most pleasing sentences you can hear as a Falcons fan, surely.
It is helpful. It is helpful. I would prefer if the whole team kind of had turf toe before the start of the season. That would be even better.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I'll take it. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, they were talking about on the ATN pod, and I think Rosenthal kind of summed up. He was like, if Jameis Winston gets a start and he has all that talent around him and that amazing coaching staff, and he can't succeed, then you know that, like,
he's not a good player.
That he's a really, like, I think there's still a kind of...
He's a good backup.
I think that there's still a kind of potential for him to maybe be a starter, and that's going to vary. We're going to know very quickly. We're going to know in the first, 4 games. Because that team is still set up to succeed. So It's going to be interesting. I don't know why they paid Taysom Hill so much money.
Well, he's clearly giving the starter for that sort of level of money.
Just weird though, because
he's not very exciting, is he? For as a QB, I mean, he's an exciting utility player, but
which makes
do
him
you want him as
QB?
I don't think he's not very good as a QB.
Do you want him as your starter? I wouldn't want him at the Falcons.
I'd rather have him than Jameis Winston.
I'd rather have Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
then you need to check your eyes and get some new glasses.
Jameis Winston
from an excitement point of view.
Ball.
From an excitement point of view, do you want to win games or be exciting?
Well, you can do both. I think
you can do both, but just focus on the first one and let's just get that over with.
I'm just not. I'm not that in on the Taysom Hill as a starter experience that we saw last year. It was very boring, and the Saints are traditionally one of the more interesting teams to watch, I'd say. And I don't know.
Yeah, but
give me Jameis. Give me Jameis or death. Let's go. He's scoring 35 points a game, but he's throwing 2 interceptions every game. It's great.
So 35 of those 14 of those 35 points are going to the other team, is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, the Falcons.
Right, okay.
Don't tell me that I have a hidden agenda here that's not so hidden, where I want the most interception-prone, worthy quarterback playing my terrible defense.
I mean, that's fair. I just think if you give Sean Payton a whole off-season to know that he's going to plan to have Taysom Hill as a starting quarterback, the offense will probably look very different rather than a couple of plays here and there. He'll be like, okay, well, he can do all this stuff. Well, now let's do that stuff too.
Yeah, we'll see.
You might see a Lamar Jackson-style offense with a QB that can throw it with receivers that can catch, an offensive coach that can create schemes to make it work better.
Taysom
It
Hill
must
that
be
good
so
at throwing?
weird, though, for him going
Better
for
than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. It must be so weird for Peyton to go from Drew Brees, who's the most
accurate,
just
racist.
the most accurate guy, to the least accurate.
Racist. He had that thing before the season last year. Remember where he put that?
Oh
thing
yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that.
You're becoming everything you hate there.
I'm just saying.
Overreacting. He's a racist. He had an opinion that wasn't 100% correct and sympathetic. He's a racist.
How dare he say something that can loosely be pushed towards being racist? How dare he? He needs to know.
I know, and it's so funny because Drew Brees is the least controversial guy. He's very boring.
Meant to be so nice. Meant to be so nice.
And meant to be so lovely, and then he does the first time he has a political opinion and it's the wrong ones. That's pretty funny. Yeah. I enjoyed that as a Falcons fan as well. See, we're having, it's good stuff.
It's a nice little throwback Falcons positive podcast, but yeah.
Get him. It's like Matt Ryan just coming out and just blazing women or something. It's what the hell? Where did that?
It's a little left field.
Team has got the capital capital to actually go after him.
Broncos just released Philip Lindsay today, which again I think is a bit harsh. Like Lindsay,
He'll be a good signing for someone.
Yeah, Lindsay hasn't really done much wrong. He's not been massively productive, but he's had flashy moments and has been a number kind of 2 running back most of the time. Like really solid, just guy behind your main.
I'd say he's been the number 1. He's been better than Melvin Gordon, and he should never have been supplanted by Melvin Gordon.
Yeah,
Phil Lindsay's got speed to go the distance at any point. He's amazing out the backfield, and he can run between the tackles. He can do everything you want from number 1 receiver. Running back.
Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting.
Got 1,000 yards in 2019 as well.
Yeah. So I
like that guy.
I don't like that as a choice from the Broncos.
You're saying the Broncos front office doesn't really know what they're doing at the moment either.
I mean, John Elway is doing a great job.
Big thanks for listening to the podcast. A big thanks to Jazz and Dave, obviously, for taking some time out from their busy lives to join us. You can follow Jazz on Twitter at Jazz Gillum. That's at Jazz Gillum, and on Instagram as well. You can follow David Bluck at David Bluck1 on Twitter. That's at David Bluck1, or just David Bluck on Instagram. And myself, O_J_Wilson. That's O_J_Wilson. Remember as well to follow the podcast at Return the Picks on Twitter and Instagram. It's available as well, of course, on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all other good podcasting outlets as well, including our host, Anchor.fm. Remember to follow, subscribe to it, give us some reviews, let us know your thoughts, and sit back and wait for the next episode, which will be in a couple of weeks' time as we continue to look ahead at this off-season and perhaps give some overall grades on who we think has improved the most after the busy free agency period is over. Until then, take care.